Welcome into Mavericks today. Harrison Graham, Jeffrey Cooperstein here. On today's show, we're going to break down some different lineup combinations that Jason Kidd can deploy this season. Some will be serious, real lineups, a couple kind of fun ones in there as well. Coop, you ready to dive into this exercise?
Yeah, let's get right into it. I think this is pretty well established that this is going to be the starting lineup for the Mavs. You'll have Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington. Now, the center spot is a little bit up for debate, but all reports indicate it's going to be Dereck Lively, and I expect that to be the case. I think this is going to be your starting lineup. When all these five are healthy and available to play, this is what you're going to have.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I would certainly project. Could there be occasional nights where Naji Marshall starts for PJ Washington or something like that? Maybe, but I think pretty clearly this is going to be your starting five. Washington's the best option you have as a 4. Obviously, Klay brought him in here to start, so I would expect this to be a starting 5. Could Gafford start? Sure, but I don't think there's really that much to digest here.
Now, the interesting thing will be if Klay struggles out of the gate, do they pull the plug on him being in the starting lineup, kind of like Golden State did last year? I tend to doubt it because they kind of brought him here on the premise that he was going to be a starter. So I think that'll be something to monitor in the first 15 to 20 games of the season, how he performs in the starting lineup.
I just expect him to start because you want to maximize his minutes with Luka in particular. So I would be surprised that he'd have to really struggle for that to be the case. All right, first rotation here. So you think, walk us through this. Are you saying when they sub for the first time?
Yeah, when that first whistle hits at the under 7 timeout or whatever the case may be, I think these are the first substitutions that Jason Kidd is going to end up making. I think Dinwiddie's going to be the first guard off the bench, and then you'll have Marshall come in and Gafford as well. So I think this will kind of be the first tinker that Jason Kidd makes within a game. Now, it'll be interesting to see who that first guard is off the bench. I think Dinwiddie has the inside track, but could it be a guy like Dante Exum? Could it be a Jaden Hardy if he has an impressive camp? I think both are options for that.
So you expect Luka and not Kyrie to sub out first?
Yeah, I think Luka he'll play till that 6-minute mark or so, and then he'll come back in the last 2 minutes of the first quarter, kind of like they did last year. I know Luka wants to play the whole first quarter, but Kidd's kind of pushed back on that to try to get his rest early and then so he can be fresh later in the game.
Yeah, and another thought process there, if you go that direction, Dinwiddie coming in for Luka, he can be kind of the primary ball handler there, whereas if you bring him in with Luka, you're still probably going to play through Luka in that scenario.
No doubt.
In this combination, both Kyrie and Dinwiddie can bring it up so they can kind of just decide how they want to handle that. What do you guys think?
I think it's a discussion to be had. I think probably more so between Dinwiddie and Exum as opposed to Jaden Hardy, but I do believe that Kidd will want to maybe on certain nights bring Exum in first as opposed to Dinwiddie, just given the nature of the game and whatnot. And I don't think it will be Dinwiddie all the time that gets that spot.
What do you guys think? First guard off the bench, type 1 for Jaden Hardy, 26 for Spencer Dinwiddie, 0 for Dante Exum. Give us your thoughts down in the comments section below. We'll continue with some more lineup combinations in a moment, but listen, game time. Get yourself some tickets to go to some awesome sporting events. Got the Cowboys just around the corner with their preseason and then regular season games getting going here in the next couple of months. Preseason just a couple of weeks. Concerts, theater events, Ranger games. Game Time's got it all, and they're going to get you the best seats for the lowest price guaranteed. Use code CHATSPORTS when you download the Game Time app today. Get you $20 off. If you're a first-time customer, terms do apply there. But what they specialize in is those last-minute tickets. If you wake up on a Saturday in the fall and college football season, you say, you know what, I want to go drive over to SMU, TCU, North Texas. I want to go catch a game, feeling like I want to get out there to the stadium today. You're going to find tickets for a really good deal on the day of these events. Now, you can certainly buy early, plan it out as well. You're going to be getting tickets in those scenarios as well. But if you're trying to get the best bang for your buck, wait a little longer, last minute, and go get those tickets. Zone deals, flash deals, they're trying to put people in the seats of these arenas and these stadiums. So go check out Game Time today. Download the app. Code ChatSports. Get you $20 off if you are a first-time customer. And terms apply. First purchase only with that code ChatSports. Okay. Small ball lineup.
There's a question mark here because this may be a little controversial. I think I'd rather see P.J. Washington at small ball 5 than Maxi Kleber will.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who you're playing. This certainly gives you the most offensive versatility. There's no doubt about it. You could argue with Kleber, maybe you have more defensive versatility. But the interesting thing about this small ball lineup is you still got some length and size here, right? Like Luka's 6'7", 230
Absolutely.
pounds. Naji Marshall, 6'7", 225. But P.J. Washington, 6'5", 6'6", 220 pounds. Like, Klay Thompson's got length. Kyrie's really your only guy who's not a pretty big guard here. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how often they have lineups out there without either Daniel Gafford or Dereck Lively. And when they do, who is that? Is it Kleber? Is it Washington? We'll see. I mean, I think in most cases, one of your traditional centers will be on the court. I think you've kind of seen the last couple of years, teams have shifted back to size a little bit.
Yep.
I think people tried to emulate the Warriors with small ball, and I think people kind of realized what they had was just a historic combination
They're
of
not
players,
quite, yes.
whereas most teams don't. So this has always been a sport of you want size. So size has kind of come back here. But, I think certainly in certain situations you could see the Mavs go small. And the beauty is, Coop, they have different guys that they can do that with. So it'll be curious to see if Jason Kidd ever does this.
Yeah, you could obviously interchange the guards there. If you wanted to put like a Jaden Hardy or a Dante Exum, you could as well. Kleber or Washington at the 5. You could put Washington at the 4 and Kleber at the 5 if you wanted to. So there's different combinations that Kidd can use there for sure if he wants to go small to try to match up against a more athletic team.
Shooters shoot. Get the best combination of shooting out there, and at the 5, if you're going to have that, again, it would need to be either Washington or Kleber. We'll throw Kleber in there for this one. Obviously, Luka could be out there as well.
Of course.
But just from a pure percentages standpoint, even though Luka did have a career high last year. Kyrie and Klay, obviously, that's pretty lethal from downtown. Quentin Grimes' ability to space the floor and shoot. Naji Marshall, 39% guy last year. And then Kleber is a streaky guy. When he's on, he's a threat out there as well.
As we're going through this exercise, it kind of just gives me optimism that there are plenty of different combinations that this team can win with. Like,
this is the first time we mentioned Quentin Grimes.
Exactly, and you can certainly win with this lineup. I mean, if QG, kind of repeats what he did there with the Knicks in the 22-23 season where he shot almost 38% from 3, like, this team could be really good, and this is a lineup that you could run out there and you won't get run out of the gym. So they have a bunch of different combinations. They have different ways to score as well. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a lineup like this early in the season.
And we're going to call this the Clamps, a.k.a. must get a stop lineup. And again, what's interesting is there's a couple of guys not out there that you could still put in there. And
you
feel
could put
okay
Gafford
about.
in.
You put Gafford in. You put Kleber in as well. But you got Exum and Grimes as the backcourt defenders. Marshall and Washington on the wing, and then Lively as your rim protector and ability to switch if needed. I mean, if you need to stop late in the game, you got 6, 7, 8 guys that you can mix in there that you could try to get a stop with.
Certainly, yeah. I think the Mavs are going to be much improved on the defensive end. I mean, they were last year after the trade deadline. I think that extends into next season, and they'll find some consistency on that end. Do I think they're an elite top 5 defensive team? Probably not, but are they a top 10 to 12 defensive team? I do think they are, and they have the capability of that just given their versatility of defenders and amount of options they can throw out there.
Yeah, the goal should be to be top 10.
Agreed.
If you can have a top 10 defense and if the offense continues to be good and the shooting improves as a team from the perimeter, which is why you brought in Klay Thompson, then you're going to be a tough team to beat, especially come playoff time.
Okay, the lineup that matters the most. The closing lineup. And I know you guys are thinking, where the hell is Klay Thompson? Believe it or not, I don't think Klay Thompson is in the starting lineup, or the closing lineup, the majority of the time.
Yeah, and look, I think this will vary from night to night. There's no question about it. But obviously Luka and Kyrie are going to be out there. There could be some nights where it's Gafford. I think center's kind of interchangeable based on how the night's going. But I think most of the time it would be Dereck Lively. We saw that in the playoffs. P.J. Washington, with the way he defended last year, if he continues to do that, I think he's going to be out there.
Yep.
And look, you win with offense, you close with defense.
Yep.
I think that's how you win in today's NBA. I think Naji Marshall, you brought him in to play that Derrick Jones role and maybe even be a little more effective. I think he's going to close a lot of the time. I really, really do. Like, Klay's going to get you there. Marshall's going to shut you down. Like, that's kind of how I view that. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to be the same every night.
It won't be.
I think this is the five that, it's kind of the best combination of offense and defense, I think, that you have on this roster.
And also, a little wrinkle that might be thrown in, if Dereck Lively is going to shoot threes this year, I mean, even if it's 1 to 2 attempts a game, it gives you another look down the stretch that teams have to account for. So I do think that if all 82 games came down to a closing lineup situation, I think this would be your closing lineup in like 50 of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. More often than not, I do think that'll be the closing lineup. What do you guys think? Should Klay be in that closing lineup? Type Y for yes, type in for no. If he's not going to be at least a league average defender, I think you got to go Naji Marshall more often than not because, look, Kyrie and Luka, who I think get an unfair rep defensively, because I think last year Jason Kidd got them both to defend. They're never going to be great, though. Like, they just aren't. So do you want to go those two and Klay in closing time? Like, if you're doing that, you're kind of just saying we're just going to outscore the opponent.
And sometimes that may be the case. Like, there might be some times where a kid kind of feels it out and says, hey, Klay has it going tonight. I'm just going to let him ride the hot hand. And that's perfectly okay. It will be subject to change almost on a game-by-game basis for sure.
And that's why, Coop, I do want to you mentioned you bring up Jason Kidd as we get out of here. Even though he's got more to work with, the job, I think, has gotten harder for him.
Agreed.
Like, the pressure is high. You're coming off of finals. The fan base is thirsty. They want to get back. 2, you get a 4-time champion in Klay Thompson who has championship medal and brings in those expectations. And 3, you are tasked with keeping Luka Doncic happy long term. He's got to figure out the combinations this year with the amount of pieces he's got. Like, it seems easy. It is not.
It is not at all.
And he has not always been great at managing rotations. So
look,
the job is not going to be easier just because you got more to work with if you're Jason Kidd.
The ego management for this team will be difficult. I mean, we all know Luka has an ego. If he didn't, there would be a problem. We know Kyrie has an ego as well, and clearly Klay Thompson does too. He's a 4-time champ for a reason, and he thought he felt disrespected by Golden State, so he's coming over here with the chip on his shoulder and something to prove. So these guys are big personalities, and you could argue that even more important than the X and O's is managing the personalities in the locker room, which Jason Kidd has been excellent at, and I expect him to continue to do so. But there will be times where Klay Thompson maybe isn't happy that he's not closing games, and there will be times that Luka's not happy that maybe he's not getting enough shots or whatever the case may be. The task definitely falls on Kidd, and I do think the pressure is certainly ramped up given how good they were last year, and making it back to the finals is obviously the goal for this team.
Well said. He's Jeffrey Cooperstein. I'm Harrison Graham. We got a mailbag episode coming up as well, so be on the lookout for that. Until next time, go Mavs.
Peace.